Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome to the big one. It's the AliExpress 11/11 sale and it's my top 10 recommendations video. I make 3 of these videos each year, one for each of the 3 big sales, one in March, one in June, and this one, the Singles Day sale on the 11th of November. Let's face it, AliExpress prices are always pretty good, but they're always at their best in November. So if you've been saving your pennies, or if you're just looking to add a little bit of budget watch joy in your life, now might be a good time to buy. Now I do try and keep these lists fresh so that I'm not just recycling the same 10 watches. I will stack a couple of old favourites at the end, but most of them are new, including 3 that I've got in the queue for review. Those 3 watches, I will release the review videos over the next couple of days, but they wouldn't be on this list if they weren't recommended. I'll let you know any idiosyncrasies and peculiarities as I go though. But if you're new to the wonderful world of AliExpress watches, perhaps you should watch a couple of my older top 10 videos to get a better idea of what is available. I'll leave a link in the top corner of the screen. Talking of links, I will leave links to all 10 of these watches in the description of the video in the order that I show them. To be clear, I'm an AliExpress affiliate. What that means is if you click on a link and buy something from Ali, they pay me a small finder's fee as commission. You don't pay any extra for the watch, just so we're clear. Thank you very much. Now, I'm a bit early this year. I'm recording a couple of days in advance of the sale. It's no problem though. If you fancy something, Ali allows you to put it in your cart, lock it in at the sale price and come back on the 11th and check out then. I have a couple of watches in my cart already for exactly that purpose. So what's on today's list then? Well, I've got what I think is the best field watch that I've reviewed for less than $75. I've got the most expensive looking cheap watch that I've ever seen. And one choice isn't even a watch. Let's get on with it. Alright, let's start strong. Let's start with the watch that I have been requested to review more than any other in the second half of this year. From the trendy men's watch store, it's the Omega Seamaster Homage by Pagani Design. Specifically, my favourite is this one. This is the No Time to Die James Bond Omega Seamaster Homage, and it looks fantastic. Now, the link I'll leave in the description takes you to a page that shows you all the different variants that are available. It also shows you a $10 store coupon. So, $140 down to $111-ish, $10 off that. You should be paying around $100, just over $100 for this one. That is an outrageous price for an outrageous amount of watch. I've been talking for a while about how I think Pagani should do a Pagani Premium. All of the value, but a slightly higher quality product for maybe just around $100. Is this it? Well, it's pretty close to it if I'm being honest. It looks fantastic. The head of the watch looks amazing. That is a piece of boxed domed sapphire crystal. I have never seen box domed for this money. I'll be reviewing this one in exactly 48 hours time if you want to pop it in your cart and hang on for the full review. Ceramic bezel insert. I am a sucker for Fotina, though there are a couple of options. Bezel action is good. The whole thing really is pretty amazing. Seiko NH35, screw down crown, 100 meters of water resistance, all the usual good stuff. However, it comes with one word of warning. I am not into the bracelet at all. They've tried to do an Omega Planet Ocean style bracelet. It looks okay. Even the clasp is remarkably good. They put in a proper dives extension. It looks like an Omega clasp, but I don't think it fits well. That's it on my wrist. I've got an average size 7-inch wrist. If you see those first links, they jut out. It doesn't look cohesive on the wrist. You can see the end of the links. The machining isn't great. I think it's going to look that way on most people's wrists. Even if you've got a really big wrist, I still think it's going to look pretty awkward. My recommendation, therefore, is to go for the really, really good looking vintage style fitted silicone rubber strap. Not only is it fitted to the head of the watch, it suits the style of the watch, especially with the Fotina, and it has a proper deployant clasp, same price. Look, up to you. You have been warned. I am not into the bracelet. 20mm lug width. It's easy enough to swap this over for a tropic or a vintage leather off. Whatever you got lying around the house. I'm going to try and pick up another one of these on the silicone rubber strap because I think that would be a killer package. But as it is, $110, a couple of vouchers here and there if you can get them. This thing looks awesome. And why not go full Bond while you're there? Pick up one of these mesh straps. $6.95. Looks like a nice thick one as well. Okay, in at number 2, it's a bit of a no-brainer on the list. It is the Cadisen CadisOak, now in 42mm. I reviewed this one earlier on this year in the original 46mm. Great watch, solid, great machining on the bracelet and the clasp and the head of the watch itself. It all looked pretty sweet. A couple of different dial choices here. There's a textured one and there is a smooth sunburst one if you prefer. All very much in the royal oak vein. Seiko NH35 screw round crown, 100 meters of water resistance. It's a proper sports watch that you can wear in most circumstances. I don't think I'm going to bother actually getting one of these in for review. It's just going to be a smaller version of the 46. The only fly in the ointment, if you can call it a fly for $71.26, is that is a piece of mineral crystal and not sapphire crystal. But Cadisen know how to make a good watch. This thing, if you like the look, great price. And at number 3 on my list of top 10 watches, it's the one that isn't actually a watch. It's the Weishi 1000 Timegrapher for $130, including shipping. Now, these are all over AliExpress. That's the best price I could find. I think that's about $30 cheaper than the cheapest eBay price I could see. It's a chunk cheaper. I think I paid $200 USD for mine 2 years ago. You may as well buy from China because it's a Chinese-made machine. Some of them are branded Weishis, some of them aren't branded at all, but it's all the same machine. Now, if you're just getting into the hobby, if you're just starting out, you're only got a collection of maybe 2 or 3 watches, you haven't quite fallen down the rabbit hole to the point of no return yet, maybe it's too early for one of these, but if you've got a collection of 10 to 12 watches, maybe some Miyotas, some Seikos, even the odd Vostok in there, I highly recommend picking up one of these. You may not get the initial thrill of peeling off the stickers of a watch, but this will pay for itself in the long run. Believe me, I lost count of how many watches that I have sharpened up the accuracy, simply popping the back off and adjusting them whilst on the Weishi. Very, very difficult to adjust a watch, to regulate a watch without one of these Timegraphers. Very, very easy to do it with a Timegrapher. Budget watches, quite often the tolerances aren't quite as sharp as you'd like them to, but I've done it to Yemas, I've done it to Vostoks, to Seikos, to a whole bunch of watches, no problems at all. This is one of these things that's going to become a key part of your arsenal in the long run. If you're a watch hobbyist, if you're a watch nerd, highly recommended you pick yourself up one of these. $130 is a great price for one as well, I think. Number 4 on the list from the San Martin official store. They're calling this one the SN004. They really ought to come up with some names for these watches. It's their retro diver. If you've been trying to find an Invicta 1953 but failing because they just haven't made enough stock, this could fill that hole for you. 237 down to 224.40. Again, there's a couple of vouchers. You should be getting that one closer to $200. Now, I have one of these on order, but it has not arrived yet. Looks great though. 38mm in diameter, so it's vintage looking with also slightly more vintage sizing. It's the usual Seiko NH35, box dome sapphire crystal, ceramic insert with vintage style, C3, old radium style, screw down crown, 200 meters water resistant, and a rivet bracelet. If you don't like the San Martin logo, you can get it sterile. You can also get your own logo, your own name, or whatever the hell you want printed on the dial instead. Maybe it costs a little bit extra, but perhaps that's something that will be worth it to you. Now, these aren't renders, these are proper shots of the watch. The finishing looks great, nice crisp printing on the dial, no rough edges to the hands either. Nice chamfered edge on the bracelet, coin edge bezel looking good, and there's that piece of box dome sapphire. And a rivet bracelet to boot, adding to the vintage look. Now, mine is on the way, but I got contacted by a guy, Watch Bonobo, on Instagram. He sent me some photos, he said I could use them in the reviews. This is his photography of the watch. It looks sharp, it all looks very, very nice indeed. I reckon this is probably the cheapest, unashamedly vintage style dive watch you can buy with that set of specs. $220, San Martin know how to make a watch. Highly recommended. I'll be reviewing mine when it comes in before Christmas. Alright, moving on from divers and sports watches to a field watch at number 5 from the high-end watches store. It's the watch on my wrist in the intro. It's the best field watch under $75 without a shadow of a doubt. It's the Burei. Now, I've had my eye on this one for ages, so I was delighted to be able to pick one up earlier on this year in a sale at a good price. You'll be seeing the review in exactly 24 hours time after this review goes live. 3 colourways, stainless steel case with green, stainless steel case with black dial, or if you want to go stealth but military, PVD with black dial. Also, I think that one looks pretty good. I must say I'm very impressed with this thing. 72 bucks gets you a Seiko NH35 full-size 41mm watch with 22mm lug width, sapphire crystal, flat sapphire, applied indexes, date at 3 o'clock, and a remarkably well-finished case, I thought, for a field watch. Most companies don't tend to go too mad on the cases with field watch, they tend to leave them quite plain, so I was pleased to see a bit of mixture of brushing and polishing, mixed surfaces, little crown guards around the crown, 50 meters of water resistance, knurled crown, big, bold, legible handset, crucial to a field watch. It's got that 24-hour markers on the chapter ring, and I like that little red tip to the second hand, just a little touch of colour, looks especially good on the all-black PVD one. I reckon there's some lume on those hands as well. I think it's a good deal at $92, at $72. Definitely one of the hot budget picks on the 11/11 sale, hence its inclusion on this list. Review coming tomorrow. At number 6, it's a bit of fun. It's one for the kiddies. It's the cheapest watch that I've ever featured on the channel, $5.33, including shipping. It's the Mee Transforming Robot watch. I guess they can't call it a transformer watch or somebody will sue them. I reviewed this one a couple of weeks ago on the channel. I had a riot playing around with this watch. Bit of a stocking filler, I reckon, $5. If you're trying to get a kid, whether that's your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, or a friend of the family into watches, this is such a fun way to do it. They can play around with the watch, they can play around with the robot. I can't think of a more entertaining way to spend $5 in the world of watches than this. Moving on from the LGY watch store, it is a Cronos Rolex Submariner Homage. Oh no, not another Rolex Submariner Homage, I hear some of you cry. Well, stick with me for a minute or two. I reckon this one hits a real sweet spot in terms of the specs, in terms of the value, and in terms of the build quality. And it's a Cronos, Jody. What are you doing? You reviewed one a few weeks ago and ripped into their Conan the Barbarian super dated logo. And do you know what they've done? They have changed the logo. Who says the moans and wriggles section doesn't work? Now, I've got this one in the queue for review. This is the footage of the actual watch that I've got. I'll be publishing this one in 3 days' time. So Burei tomorrow, Pagani Seamaster the day after, and the Cronos the day after that. One change though, they have changed the bracelet. They're now doing all brushed rather than polished mid-links. Some of you will like that, some of you won't like that, but there you are. Now, if you add the voucher and a coupon and a voucher, you can get a Sellita 200 powered version of this watch for $306. Now, since Phoebus discontinued the PY007, which was the best of the $300 versions, and that only had a Miyota 9000, this fills that hole nicely. Really, you're looking north of 500 for a Steinhardt or a Squale if you want a Swiss powered watch in this Rolex Submariner vein. And this is a very, very nicely done watch, I assure you. Nicely finished, good taper on the bracelet, proportions are all right, great ceramic bezel, good lume, handsets crisply finished, usable cyclops, everything just works. Not the most interesting design in the world, I grant you, but if you want a Sellita 200 powered Submariner homage, this one, $300, great value. And the next watch in my cart today is the Steeldive 1970-6105 homage. So many people have told me so many good things about these Steeldive watches. I thought it was high time I picked one up for myself. Again, you can expect to see a review of this one perhaps before Christmas. I'm actually going to do a comparison between it and the $1,000 new Seiko Willard. What do you get for that extra $900? It will be very, very interesting to see. You can get these on NATOs, you can get these on rubber straps. I'll personally be going for the one on the bracelet to compare it to the braceleted version Seiko. Only fly in the ointment I can see here really is that it doesn't have a milled clasp. But talking of clasps, you can buy a milled clasp to go with your watch on Ali for around $10 US. Be careful though, you're going to have to pick the size that fits the end of the bracelet, which is not necessarily the lug width. But this looks good. We've all seen these 6105 homages before. I'll be interested to see just how good this one can be, considering it only costs $114.08. Talking of clasps and things, I went on a deep dive and ended up finding this for $30. Looks kind of like a stabe, but for about 10 to 15% of the money that a stabe costs. I've got a Vostok with straight cut end links and 22mm lugs. This is going to look crash hot on it. It's in my cart as well today. Alright, that's the new stuff. Let's have a look at a couple of classics. If you're looking for a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 office watch, you can't really go wrong with either of these two. First up is the Cadisen C1032, available in either black or silver. I love this watch, so much so I have got one of each. Seiko NH36, day-date complication, great for the office in case you forget what day it is. Sapphire crystal, Dauphine hands, applied indexes. Classic proportions, 40mm diameter, 20mm lug width. It is a great watch. I wear my black one on a variety of vintage style straps. Here it is on a Horween that probably costs more than the watch, but it doesn't look out of place. It's a really simple, stylish little watch. I always recommend it, especially at sale time. And it's been a while since I recommended this one. This is the Guanqin GJ16034, another catchy name. Again, this one has an NH36, but it has a more interesting and original look than the Cadisen. Look at that bezel, very nicely faceted there, interesting handset as well, and I do like the Guanqin Longines rip-off wings there with the G as the logo. Now, I have reviewed one with a bracelet before. I found the bracelet weighty and cumbersome and a little bit over designed, but on leather strap for $59.99 I reckon you should definitely be having a good close look at these. There are also two-tone. If you like the black and gold look, then the Guanqin's the one for you. And finally, from the Pagani Design official store to round out the selection today, it's the chronograph, and it's none other than the Pagani Daytona Homage. As long as you're okay with a complete facsimile of the Rolex Daytona, $62.99, this watch offers outstanding value for money. Much like the Seamaster Clawmage that I started with, this looks so much more expensive than the price suggests. That's a ceramic bezel. They've updated this model since I reviewed it. It now features screw-down crown, screw-down pushers, and 100 meters of water resistance, sapphire crystal, a nice bracelet, and a Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz movement. So it's battery powered, but it's got a small second subdial at 6 o'clock, so you don't necessarily see this thing ticking in the way that you would if it had a big second hand. Always great to have one or two quartz watches in your box, the grab and go piece, as they say. Couple of new colorways here as well. There's the traditional black and white. There's also a new blue one and a green one. Again, slightly differentiating it from the Rolex, upon which it is so clearly based. $63, definitely one of my top picks under 100. So there you have it, another top 10 AliExpress specials for the 11th of the 11th. What did you fancy out of that lot? That Pagani Seamaster Homage is undoubtedly the most expensive looking cheap watch that I have ever seen. The bracelet, not up to snuff, I don't think. It certainly didn't look great on my wrist. I would be going for that fitted vintage style rubber strap every single time. $111 for a watch that looks that good. It's going to be a while before I see anything that tops that, I reckon. The Weishi 1000, perhaps it's time to buy one of those if you're a bit of a nerd or if you've got an expanding collection. I cannot tell you how many watches I have regulated and adjusted to pretty much spot on using my trusty Weishi. And finally, I relented. There's a Steeldive on the way, that 1970. I do love a Willard clone, and I've had so many people tell me I need to pick one of those up, so I have done so. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in March for the next AliExpress sale, or next week.